Okay, so we first of all would like to welcome TorahAnytime to our Tuesday night classes. So Baruch Hashem, we got lucky enough and the privilege to join TorahAnytime. And I know that all of you are very, very much familiar with TorahAnytime, but I'm going to tell you stuff that you know about TorahAnytime and stuff that you never heard about TorahAnytime. Now, when I first heard of TorahAnytime, it was a few years ago, and I saw all their, because still on the old website, and I saw all the list of all their classes, and I saw how they're constantly updating and constantly putting on new shiurim. And my wife told me this, because I told her, I'm like, I got to get involved with this. I got to get involved. This is gold mine. There's a spiritual gold mine right over here. So I'm like, I got to get involved. So you know how there are people that they see an opportunity, you have to capitalize on the opportunity. Right? If let's say you see a good business investment, you want to jump in it before anybody else jumps in it, right? And I saw this as a tremendous spiritual investment. And I'm like, I told my wife, I'm like, I got to get involved. And it took me, it took some time until I got a hold of them and that. But Baruch Hashem, I've been involved with them for a few years now, and I always wondered. I told my wife, I'm like, how did they get the zchut? How did they get the merit to do? This is huge. This is, by the way, this is the biggest yeshiva in the world. How did they get to have a merit to start an organization like that and to blow up like that? You have to have zchut. And I always wondered, I'm like, why? How did they get that? How did they get that? The first conversation that I had with them was about maybe a half hour or so, a few years ago, and over the phone. And as I got closer to the end of closing the phone call, I told him, I'm not going to mention any names. I told one of the people that are in charge, and I told them, and I said, listen, I always wondered, I'm like, how you got the merit? How did you get the zchut to start this amazing organization? And the way that I spoke to you for the past 30 minutes, I know 100% of the reason why that God gave you the opportunity to do that. These people are 100% l'shem shamayim. Everything that they do is only for all the classes are free. Everything is for the people, for God, for the people. It's an amazing opportunity, and they are the nicest people that you could meet. They are so genuine, sweet, and pure. It's funny because I wanted to be involved with them, right? So I was doing a few things for them, over the course of the years. And when you think about it, first of all, anybody can get involved with this. Anybody can get involved just by going and sending a link out of a class from TorahAnytime to somebody else. And somebody goes and is going to click on the link, and then he's going to be like, oh, look at all these other classes. And they start, and from that, they go into hours and hours of learning Torah. Who gets the reward? You're the broker. You're the one who sent them to them, right? We gave this example before. If let's say you take somebody gambling, right? You take somebody gambling, and the guy's never gambled before in your life, right? Not allowed to go gambling. You took him gambling, and now he became an addictive personality. He lost all his money, his wife, his kids. He threw out his spirituality. Who does he have to thank for? You, who brought him to AC, brought him to Sodom and Amorah. You brought him over there, you made him lose all his money, you made him lose his spirituality. Who's going to get punished for that? You, for introducing them to that, right? It's called the difference of zikuy rabim. It's somebody who gives merit to the public, as opposed to machtiyat rabim, giving people, helping people sin, right? Either way, it's a lose-lose situation, because even if you win money, it's not pure money. It's not good money. It's not blessed money. So the idea is you could accomplish so much. You could go, after 120, you live the regular Jewish, kosher Jewish life. You get up to heaven, and they tell you, very nice, you did this, and you get all this, your judgment day, and then suddenly, right before they close the case, they bring this huge wagon full of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours of Torah learning. And you're like, what? I never learned all this stuff. And they bring you millions and millions of hours of learning Torah. And you're like, this is not mine, whose is it? And they're like, no, you send it to 14 different people, and because of that, they all started learning. All their reward goes to you, right? People are fooled. The people that don't go and spread it out are somebody who has a winning lottery ticket, and he takes the lottery ticket and he puts it in his wallet and forgets about it. The law is in New York State, I believe, you have until 1 year to cash it out. If you come 1 year, 1 day, it's no good. Imagine you pick it out 1 year, 1 day, you see you won $450 million. What are you going to do? Be happy if you made it to the end of the week without killing yourself, right? People have such an opportunity right now. It's so easy to make endless reward. Just pass out the shiur Torah. You don't want to pass it? You could donate to the thing also. You become a partner with them, and you'll have unlimited amount. But which let me give you some statistics about it. They have, on the average right now, on the average month, there's about 500,000 hours of Torah being learned. 500,000 hours on one website. They have over 27,000 shiurim. Lectures, right? You cannot get bored. You could sit there from now until you're 120, right? And start listening for 24 hours straight. You'll still have stuff to listen to because it's constantly getting updated. Over 120 countries come and visit them, right? They have over, they have about over 400 different speakers, right? There are more, but let's just keep it, over 400 different speakers that speak about various different topics. So you can always find out who do you like and who do you, who do you prefer to listen to. They had, on a very busy day, they could get over to close to 100,000 views, the people that are coming in there. You know what that is? This is going to blow up. Over the next few years, this is going to blow up. This is going to be the biggest yeshiva in the world. It is the biggest yeshiva. It's going to get even bigger. It says you want to be a part of that. You want to get as in on that. I'm telling you right now, there's a secret gold mine. I'm giving you inside stock trading to the spiritual world. Right? Make sure invest. It's nothing. All you do is got to send a link. Check out this. Send out the app. Here's an app. Downloaded it. It's amazing. It'll change people's lives. Okay, so that was just an introduction, right? We didn't even, by the way, scrap anything about it. It's an amazing organization, and you can do whatever you can to get involved with them, and you should. Okay, so now let's go on to the topic for today. The topic today is call it what you want, success, happiness. We're going to try Be'ezrat Hashem to cover as much as we can on this, and we'll see how much time with the time that we have today. So now, there is a very interesting thing that I heard from Rabbi Yehoshua, Rabbeinu, and I heard it from and I forgot his last name. I heard it from a rabbi who gives a small little class, and it'll come to me soon, and I'll tell you. I usually like to give the sources, but in any case, I heard it from. There was a question asked to a rabbi, and he said, "What is the most powerful verse in the Torah?" Right? So the second that you hear that, you're like, what do you mean? Everything. The Torah is holy in each thing. But he said very particular, if you could pick out one verse in the Torah, what is the most powerful verse? So the rabbi said, a verse from Bamidbar, chapter 14, verse 41. But let me give you an introduction before I tell you that. He said as follows. He said the introduction is Moses said he's going to send 12 spies into Israel, right? 10 came back with negative results, and 2 came back with positive results. Now, they came and they complained, why are you taking us there to die? Why are you doing all that? God, as a punishment, said, okay, none of you are going to go to Israel, right? All of you are going to die in the desert. You're going to stay here for 40 years, and then the next crop is going to go into Israel. There was a group of people the following morning who thought about it and be like, you know what? Moshe's right. He says, why don't we listen to God? He says, we changed our mind. Let's go. We're going to go, and we're going to go into Israel. We're going to take over Israel. We're going to win. We're going to fight. We're going to establish a Jewish land. So they go over to Moses thinking that he's going to praise them. Say, listen, we got a thing. Let's go. We're going to do it. We're going to be successful. And Moshe says, no, it doesn't work that way. And it doesn't work the way. And this is what he answered. And I'm going to read it to you inside, and then I will translate. Vayomer Moshe. And Moshe said, Lama ze atem ovrim et pi Hashem. Why is this that you're transgressing the word of Hashem? V'hi lo tzitzliach. You will not be successful. You want to know the most powerful verse in the Torah? If you go against God, you're not going to be successful. You want to be successful, you got to do what God wants. Moses says, don't go against God. God says, don't go. Because if you go, you're not going to be successful. Because if you don't listen to God, you're not going to be successful. And you can take that out. You see anybody that doesn't listen to God, they're not successful in life. Now, that was the end of the Torah. Then now, if people ask, what do you mean? I see many people don't keep Shabbat. Many people that don't eat kosher, and they're having success throughout their entire life. So now we're gonna break that into. I'm gonna answer that question in a two-part answer. Number one is God doesn't punish instantly, which means is if somebody would light a cigarette, and the second that he lights a cigarette, he blows up, right, on Shabbat, I'm talking about, right? He lights up a cigarette, he blows up on Shabbat, right? And then he goes and he's going to take out his phone, he's going to text somebody, his friend is texting somebody, and second he gets electrocuted from the phone. And, somebody's looking and saying, oh, that's weird. Another guy goes, takes another cigarette and says, well, that's crazy, what just happened? Lights a cigarette, again, he blows up. So people start correlating, put the two dots together. They realize that every time someone's mechalel Shabbat, they get instant death. That's it. So how are people going to keep Shabbat? The non-Jews are going to keep Shabbat. They're going to be like this. Be like, hey, you want to go for a walk? I might carry something. I don't know. I'm not taking any risk. Everyone's like this, right? There's not going to be any free will. If God would punish instantly, which means is if you did a sin and God would punish instantly, there would be no free will. Now, so that being said, God is merciful. God says, okay, I'll wait. You're sinning. I'm giving you ear. I'm giving you money. I'm giving you everything that you need to survive, and you're using it against me. Let's wait and see what happens. And He gives you time. Says you have time to do tshuva until there's no more time, and then that's it. The game is over. And which people think that they have more time than they really do. But God doesn't punish. Number one part of the answer, God doesn't. Look at this person that's successful. Follow him through life. See how successful he's going to be throughout life. Right now you see successful. Go look at through life and see how successful he is. That's part one for the answer. Part two is, I'm going to ask you all this, and I guarantee you everybody's going to say the exact same thing. When I say, oh, look at that person, he's very successful, what does it come to everybody's in their mind right now? When I say, well, check out that guy, he's very successful. He's rich. Money. We, unfortunately, equate success to money. right? When you see somebody, oh, this guy's successful, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? The first thing that comes into your mind, money. This guy's got money. That's what success is, right? Now let me ask you a question like this. Somebody's made it big. He's a multimillionaire, right? But his wife cheats on him. His son steals money from him so that he could use it for drugs. His daughter dresses like a prostitute and comes home in the wee hours of the morning. Is this guy successful? He's by far successful, right? Which means is that I just proved to you that somebody with money doesn't necessarily mean he's successful. So now what is defined success? Now if I ask you, what do people want in life? So somebody will say they want money. Other people will say they want a relationship. Other people would say they want to have children. They want the vacations. They want all these things. But that's basic level, right? Now, let's go a step higher up. Why do they want that? Why does a person want money? Because he thinks he's going to be able to buy stuff with it. And why does he want to buy stuff? Because it's going to make him happy. Everybody wants certain things in life. Why? It all points to one final step. And that final step is happiness. He says, you know why I want to get married? Because I think I'll be happier that way. You want to know why I'll have kids? Because I think I'll be happier that way. You want to know why I want to make money? Because I'm going to be happy that way. So everything points into the top of the thing. What everybody wants in life is happiness. Anybody disagree? No. Okay, good. So now the idea is that if happiness is what everybody strives for, let's see how successful people are in this world in happiness. So I'm going to go through a few statistics, but before that, if somebody is not happy, if someone's depressed, people think, okay, so if someone's depressed, okay, so that's his emotions, right? But emotions go in and affect physiological, effect on the body. It makes a difference. If someone's stressed out, he has high blood pressure. His cholesterol can go up. He could get diabetes. He could get, if someone's depressed, his eating habits are all different. His sleep habits are erratic. Everything is in the emotional state affects the physical state, which means is if someone's depressed, it's going to affect that person's the way that how healthy he will be. Also, that if someone's depressed or stressed, their immune system goes down, which means it's easier for them to get an infection, right? So it pays for people to be happy. Let's just start off with that. There was one time a psychology professor who walked into a classroom, first day of class, and she comes in and she holds up a half a cup. Imagine this is half, right? This is a half a glass of liquid filled up. And, so what happens when you're a student and you see a teacher in psychology walks in with this? What's the first thing that comes into your mind? Glass half full or glass half empty, right? I say, that's what the students are waiting to hear the teacher say, but the teacher doesn't say that. The teacher says, how heavy is this? So, the students, so they're doing the mathematic major, so they picture, okay, so there's 6 ounces and a half of it, so it's 3 ounces, and they transfer, and they start writing calculations down, transfer the volume to the weight, and they start throwing out numbers. And they're saying, this one is this amount of ounces, and this one is half a pound, however much they give her in weight. And then she says, after everyone gave out answers, she says, I didn't say how heavy it was. I didn't say how much it weighed. I asked you how heavy it was. And how heavy it was, it depends how long I hold it. If I hold it for 2 minutes, not heavy at all. If I hold it for 5 minutes, I could do it. If I hold it for a half hour, now it's getting a little annoying. It's a little tougher. If I hold it for 2 hours, now it's going to start to get heavy. If I hold it for 4 hours, I can barely hold it up anymore. I got to put it down. So the weight, the heaviness of it, it all depends on how long you hold it. There are many people in life that have a lot of stress, a lot of depression, a lot of things that happen in their life, right? How long do they hold on to that? There are many people, one bad thing happens, the whole week is ruined, right? Because they hold on to that thing for the whole week and that's it. That's going to weigh you down. You're not going to be able to be happy. Bad things happen, you're not able to push it away. You hold it for a few minutes and you put it down and move on with your life. Otherwise, it's going to get too heavy. It's going to bottle you down. So, this also, which we'll speak about. The number one thing is a lack of emunah, a lack of faith in God, and when bad things happen, which we're gonna speak about. But before we get to that, there's something very interesting, which I'm sure you all heard of. You know what a hypochondria is? Somebody who's hypochondria is somebody who, if he sees or she sees anything bad in the news, or whatever it is in a medical thing, they're like, I knew it, I had that, right? It could be 1 in 7 billion people, right? Which means is one person in the entire world could have this disease, and they'll say, that you have like this weird, rare disease of having nausea and vomiting while itching of the left ear and scratching of the back at the same time, and they're like, yes, I did. I knew that I had something that's uncurable, right? Everything they do, not only that, they'll go into the doctor and they say that they come well prepared. And they'll be like, listen, doctor, I have high blood pressure and I need this medication. The doctor checks, it's like, your blood pressure is fine, you don't need anything. And so what do? They go to another doctor. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, right? They go to another doctor and say, listen, doc, I know what I need, this is the problem, right? These people do not live happy lives. Every other second they read something else and they think that they have that. They go through WebMD and they have every disease that they have on WebMD. Right? Says Rabbi Lezer Papo in Chesed La'alafim. He said that there's many times that people bring disaster upon themselves. They think always negative. They think that always bad things are going to happen to them, and they themselves are the one that cause the bad things to happen for always thinking this negativity. So I did a research, and I wanted to see what is what I was trying to do is to see what is the most prescribed drug in America, right, in the pharmaceutical industry. So I did a few research, and I couldn't find with anything particular. And then I did my research, which I finalized with, was what is the highest prescribed drug by classification. So to explain that, there is, let's say, high blood pressure medications, but there's not just one. There could be 50 of them. There's antidepressant medications, but there's not one. There's hundreds of them. There's so many. There's pain medications. There's so many pain medications, right? So I did it by classification: high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, depression, anxiety, all these different classifications. The number one in America, I believe it was in America, I think the study was done in 2010, was with 255 million prescriptions. Number one came in high cholesterol, hyperlipidemia. High cholesterol, people that have high cholesterol is the number one selling classification of drugs in America, right? High cholesterol. Number two was depression. By how much it was off? 253 million prescriptions. It was off by 2 million for competing for number one, right? Which means and by the way, it doesn't mean that 253 million people have depression, but rather it means is that it's by classification of drug, which means that somebody can be prescribed more than one drug of the same classification. So you have to take that into account. So the thing that bears in mind now is if the main thing that people go in life is happiness, then why is it that everybody's depressed? Why is it that everybody's down? We're doing something wrong. And I'll tell you even more. I'll tell you some research. Dr. Kelly Posner, which was an assistant professor in Columbia University of the College of Physicians and Surgeons in New York City, right? She stated in her research that 25% of adults will have a major depressive episode sometime in their life. 25% means 1 out of 4 people will have at some point in their life a major depressive episode. That's very bad news. That doesn't sound like we're doing a good job at being happy. It doesn't mean that you'll be depressed throughout your entire life. It will mean you have one major depressive episode, right? Some people have midlife crisis, whatever it is that it plugs into everybody else, everybody in themselves. The American Psychological Association said that happiness, right now, I'll explain it in layman terms. We're in an electronical age, right? We're in such advanced age that there's so many things that our parents didn't have. Forget about our grandparents, right? You have airplanes, you have automobiles, you have smartphones, you have things that, you have air conditioning, you have running water and heat, right? You would think with all this advanced technology, we should be a lot more happier. Says Dr. David G. Myers, he says, and I'm going to quote, "Our becoming much better over the past 4 decades has not accompanied by one iota of increased subjective well-being," which means all this advance. You have a robot that could vacuum you with your house without you doing anything. You just let it, and it's just going to do its job, right? All this advancement in technology, people are still not happier. Not only that, but the study was that in fact they're less happy than they used to be. Right? Here's an easy example. You had let's say you're talking about your great-grandparents. Let's say they wanted to come from Azerbaijan to America. What do they have to do? They have to go on a plane. I forget what a plane. What am I talking about? They have to go on a boat. Right? They have to go in a boat, right? They have to hope that the sailboats or the sail is there, the wind is going, and they have the cold and the technology that they had back then, which was not so advanced. And they would have to go and they would sit on the boat for weeks, if not months, right? And they would go there with all the diseases, with all the seasickness, with all the waves, with all the storms, everything to get to a certain place. Nowadays, you go on an airplane, some people pop a pill, and they wake up in a different country. And why do they complain? Oh, it was a little bumpy. Yeah, it was a crazy. Oh, this pilot didn't know anything. Oh, wow, a half hour delayed. What's going on over here? Half hour. You know what delay means in the olden days? It means a few weeks delayed, right? There was no wind, so you're a few weeks delayed. And we complain about a half an hour, right? We are lacking in happiness with all our technological advancements. Here's something that almost no American citizen knows where it comes from, but no born American knows, but all the American citizens that come from other countries usually know it is because they study it. Where is this from? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
What is that?
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness comes to the Declaration of Independence, right? So the obvious question, if you ask anybody who learns Gemara, they're going to say, you see life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They're going to ask you right away, okay, hold on a second. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Why? It should be life, liberty, and happiness. Or if you're saying pursuit, it should be the pursuit of life, Pursuit of liberty, pursuit of happiness. What's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Doesn't make any sense. So the answer is that America is all about the pursuing of happiness. It's never the achieving of happiness. If you ever realize, when people say, people ask, let's say, they go, let's start from high school. They go out of high school, when are you going to be happy? Come on, so you know what I'm going to be happy? When I get into the college that I want to get to. Right? I think we spoke about this idea before. And then when they get to the college that they want to, they'll say, okay, you know what, I'm going to be happy when I graduate from this college. Right? And when they graduate and they get the degree, when are they going to be happy? They're going to be happy when they get a first job. And then they're going to be happier when they get the second job, because the first job they never liked. And the second job, they say, I'll be happy when I get my third job. And then I'll be happy when I start my business. And then I'll be happier when I'll get married. That's when I'm going to be happy. It's always then. I'll be happy then. I'll be happy when I have kids. I'll be happy when the kids go out of the house. I'll have some peace and quiet. You're never happy now. And the problem is, if you're never happy now, you're never going to be happy. Because if you always push off your happiness, if it's always the pursuit of happiness, it's the never of the achievement of happiness. So now, the idea is, and I heard this the story once from Charlie Harari. He said an amazing story and idea. There was once a person that had a heart condition, and he had a major heart attack, and it was like a literally near life death experience. And thank God he recovered. And he recovered as usual. When people has a near death experience, they're going to change their life, which is very much well understood. But what people didn't understand was, and all his friends was like, usually this happens, what happens, people change, and then they slowly revert back to their old ways. They didn't understand that this person, even though that he, had this crazy life-changing experience, it's been a few months, and he's been like on a strong high. He's like a changed man. So they went over to him, and they asked him, like, hey buddy, how do you do that? I mean, I know you had this, but how do you keep it up? So he says, listen, I always wanted to be a better person. He says, when I was, before I had this scare, he says, I always wanted to be a better husband. I always wanted to be a better partner. I always wanted to do better in business. I always wanted to be a better father, a better son. I wanted to be, better spiritually. I wanted to be, just a better person in general. But I always said, okay, no, I can't do it now. I'm going to do it then. I have a business meeting now. I'll buy my wife flowers afterwards. And I forgot about that. Then I'll buy it, I'll do something else. I'll tell my wife I love her then. It's never now, because always there was something else that was coming into time. He says, after that heart attack, what he said he realized, thank you. He realized, and he said that, he says, I live now by 3 letters. And that 3 letters is N-O-W. I don't live by, I'll do it then, because there might not be a then. There might not be a tomorrow. I want to be a better person. I'm a better person now. I want to be better spiritually. I'm going to be better spiritually today. Not tomorrow, not this Shabbat. Now I change. Not then. So he says, that's how I change. That's how I change, and I'm continuous changing, because I don't push anything off. That's how you want to be happy. You want to be successful in life. You be happy now. You be more greater spiritually. You get closer to God now. Don't wait for the magic, potion to come and kick you in, and all of a sudden everything is going to go away. You do it now. You don't push it off. Now, there is, there's a very famous saying: "The grass is greener on the other side," right? Or something along those lines. There's a very famous question that asks, "What is it better, to be miserably married or single?" Right? Single, everybody's. As long as they're not doing sins, they're miserably single. Right? So you have, what is it better, to be, single or married but not happily? So the married people,
Happily single or single?
there's no happily single. There's no such thing. So if you're not sinning, there's no happily single, right? And if you are sinning, then that happiness is not going to last, right? So the idea is that married people are going to tell you, oh, it's going to be much better to be single, right? You always have these people that give great advice, oh, you're single. Oh, you enjoy it. You guys could go out. You go out as much as you want. Enjoy. Marriage is great. Listen, marriage is great. You know how people always say, like when you ask them about marriage, it'd be like, it's work. It's good. But it's a lot of work. But it's really, really good. Those type of advice. Why are people getting married? But the idea is that people always see the opposite as better. The single people always see the married people as happy. The married people always see the single people as happier. So there was once a story, I guess more like a joke, that there was a woman that was married to a man for 20 years. And she's sitting, wakes up one time in the middle of the night, and the person's, no one's in the, her husband's not in bed. And she's like, what, it's like 4 a.m, where is he? So she puts on a robe, she goes downstairs, and she sees the light on in the kitchen. She goes in the kitchen, and she sees her husband staring at the wall. And, she's like, well, he's like, is everything okay? And she sees like a little tear streaking down his cheek. And she tells him, she's like, honey, is everything okay? And he's sitting there, drinking his hot cup of tea, and he says, remember 20 years ago, when your father caught us, and we were, you were 16 and we were dating, and your father pointed a shotgun at me, and he said, either you marry her or you're going to spend 20 years in jail. And she's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. I was all emotional. Yeah, that was amazing. And wiping away his tear, he's like, I would have gotten out today if I would have went in. People always look, this guy would have been rather to sit in prison for 20 years and be married with his wife, right? People always see the opposite as better. People always look at the opposite and say, oh, that's a much better option. People never look at where they are and have the happiness. New York Times once asked Gallup to do a research. Gallup is a company that does statistical research and does different types of statistical analysis. So they told them, New York Times came and told them, and they said, came to Gallup and says, I want you to find me the most happiest man in the world. In America, the most happiest man in America. So they gave them they put a bunch of psychologists together, and they says, okay, in order to be happy, you have to be making X amount of money, you have to be of this ethnicity, you have to be religious, you have to be, and they gave them a criteria of what it requires to be, and you have to live in a nice place. So they did this research, and they found the person. They found a person who lives in Honolulu, Hawaii, and of who is the happiest person in the world, in America. So they call, and you can look it up. It was, first of all, it had to be a man, because men generally tend to be happier than women, according to their analysis. It had to be older than middle age. He has to be tall. He has to be, and listen to this. So listen to who they found. I'll give you the information afterwards.
Why do they have that particular criteria? It has to be a man, has to be tall.
Because under their psychological analysis, they realized that this is the happiest one. Because they told us the Gallup. They said, listen, look for this and find this for us. And under their criteria, this is the happiest person. So they went and they found a person by the name of Alvin Wong. Alvin Wong was a 5'10", 69-year-old Chinese-American, get this, kosher observant Jew, who lives in Honolulu, married with children. He has his own healthcare management business and makes over $120,000 a year. They call him up on the telephone and they say, listen, we just did a research and you came up as the happiest person in the world. Are you happy? And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, thanks. And then this guy went and became a talk show host all over the place. The happiest. How do you do it? How are you so happy? So the idea is well, let me explain to you something like this. Rabbi Noach Weinberg, he's Jewish and observant. Asian Jewish. Go search him. You search him on. You'll see it. Or just take my word. Alvin Wong. So, Rabbi Noach Weinberg. He said, he's the founder of Asia Torah. He said as this. He said that in order, people think that happiness is my own prerogative. I want to not be happy. That's my problem. That person wants to be happy. Let him be happy. Let him be depressed. Doesn't matter. People don't understand that your happiness is not a right. It's an obligation for your friend. Which means, and I'll give you an example. Somebody goes into, let's say you take somebody out on a camping trip, right? And you take this one person who's always a complainer. He's like, oh, there's so many flies over here. Oh my God, there's no running shower. There's no water. There's no toilets. There's no this. The beer is hot. This is hot. There's no fish are catching. Always complaining. That type of guy, you don't want to take anywhere. That brings everybody else down. So you say, like that type of person, people that are always depressed bring everybody else down. It says you're not allowed to be depressed for your friends even. Forget about for yourself. For your friends. It says you're bringing other people down. It says who gave you that right so that you're able to go and be depressed and bring other people down? You have an obligation to be happy. Not only for yourself, but also for somebody else. There's a Gemara in Ketubot, page 111b, that says that it's better, Rabbi Yochanan says, that a smile gives more to a person than milk. If you give a person a glass of milk, or a smile does so much. You see somebody, and you give them a smile. Right? It's very hard for people to live in New York to smile at people, right? I'm not talking about the opposite gender while you're, on the train or anything like that. That should not be done. But I'm saying if you see somebody who's down, depressed, or whatever it is, you're walking, look at that, smile and say, hey, have an amazing day. Have an awesome day. So, the number one, what is the worst thing that you could tell a person who is not happy? Let's say he's depressed, he's down, right? The worst thing that you could tell him is like, hey buddy, cheer up. And as if, the guy would be like, oh, thank you for ending my depression. Oh, I didn't know, I should cheer up. As if I didn't know, right? So you have to know what to say. Can't just shoot out something and be like, oh yeah, hey, stop being depressed, right? It's obviously you have to do it in the right way. You have to smile, you have to encourage a person, and things like that. So now let's go through a few steps on how to become a happier person. So it was actually interesting. There's something called positive psychology, which was, I believe, started by somebody by the name of Martin Seligman. Martin Seligman, he's like, psychology always studies the sick people. Right? This person has anxiety, this person has depression, this person has OCD, this person has all these issues, and they study that. If you want to know about happiness, you have to study a happy person. So they have started something called positive psychology. So he started, studying, and we're going to go through a few things that he spoke about regarding on what to become positive, right? Rabbi Mordechai Becher also gives a list of few things which I took also from him. He has a few things that we're going to also use that he presented. So there's something very interesting that there's a pasuk in Isaiah 55 chapter 12. Ki b'simcha tetzu. Rabbi Simcha Bunim of Peshischa, he explains it as follows. He explains it. Literally, that translation means, "For with joy you shall go forth." Right? Ki b'simcha tetzu. This rabbi says, no. You read it a little bit differently. Ki b'simcha, with happiness, tetzu, you could get out of every problem. Any problem in your life, with happiness, you'll be able to get out of it. Right? Now, if I would say, what is the number one thing that you could do to become a happier person? The number one thing that you could do is emunah, faith in God. If you have faith in God, that means that if anything bad happens, so you'd be like, okay, obviously it's easier said than done. But if everything's from God, then you're okay. Even if the bad thing happens, you're like, okay, it's fine. It's all from God. It's all. You don't take it personally. Good thing happens, it's all from God. It's a win-win situation on all sides of the coin. Now, the other thing is, and we'll probably speak a little bit more about Emunah in, I don't know if we'll get to today, but we'll speak about it in a continuation of this topic. The next thing is expressing gratitude. A grateful person is going to be more happier with any product that he uses. I'll give you an example. First of all, there are many people that, I know somebody that doesn't smile. Won't smile. He gave him in his own child's wedding. I was there, did not smile. Right? Why not smiling? You know what? People don't. They can't. True. It doesn't mean that he's not happy, but smiling does really tell you a little bit. Maybe yes, maybe not. Right? So it could be yes, could be not. But pictures, at least smile for pictures. No, at least you show some happiness when your child's getting married. Right? I think they had the shidduch was a good shidduch. Everyone's happy with that. So, but there are certain people. I'll give you. Here's another example. Somebody's on a business deal and they get an amazing business deal. Right? They'll keep a solid, straight face, God, not going to pretend that this guy thinks that he's giving me a good deal, thinking that they're the best businessman, and they're going to go, they might feel happiness inside, but they won't express anything outside, right? They'll go through, and I know a few businessmen, they get an amazing deal, they don't express gratitude. They're not grateful for what God just threw in their lap, a gold mine, right? They're not grateful. You should be grateful that you came to today's class and you heard about all this Torah anytime and how much you could spread it out right now, right? I gave you a gold mine that you could use. So there are many people that they're not grateful. The more grateful you are in a product, the more happier you're going to be to use it. This is not 100% a great example, but the idea is like this. Let's say you take and you buy a product. If you buy this product, let's say the full cost of the price is 20 grand. Whatever it was, expensive product, right? And you paid 5 grand for it. Let's make it better. You paid 2 grand for it. Are you going to enjoy it more when you pay $2,000 for it, or are you going to enjoy it more if you paid 20? You had a good deal, It's the way Jews run, that's how we go. That's how we do it, right? If you ever ask somebody, he says, oh, you see something, it's like, oh, how much you pay for that? What is the Jewish answer? It says, how much I pay for it, or how much is it worth? Two different things, right? Because everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody does wholesale, right? The idea is that if you get a good deal, you have more express gratitude, right? I think everybody got a good deal in life. You're here, right? When was the last time you were grateful that you're here? Now
so he had a great deal. How does he have to be grateful for it?
I'm not talking about anything spiritual. Just be happy. Enjoy, smile.
I got a great deal.
You don't have to post it all over. Put an ad out and hey guys, I got an amazing deal. But there are many people that are happy. They get a good deal. They're very happy. They're happy. They're satisfied. Maybe they tell their close friends.
The person could be happy inside, not show the emotions because he is. I don't want to spook the guy. Maybe he'll.
So not that okay, but to your wife, to your business partner, to things like that. So that they're different people. Obviously, different people. Okay, so that's fine. But there are people that just don't smile ever. There's not, and unless you're some huge rabbi who's sitting and learn all 24 hours a day, who doesn't take his eyes off the Gemara, I think, it is incumbent upon us to smile. Even then, they also smile, but I'm saying, but the idea is they're always learning. So now, there's also something very interesting is that if you appreciate something, you have a higher self-esteem, which means how could you help somebody else if you don't appreciate the qualities that you have? In order for you to be kind to somebody else, you have to feel like you're worth something, that you have something to give. And that also, in the same sense, it also increases your self-esteem, right? That's why people that always chase money are stingy, miserly, right? They're not grateful for what they have. They think they don't have enough. So they always need to collect more and more and more, and that's why they can't give it out. Because they're not grateful. They don't realize what they have. There was, it's for example, like nowadays, nowadays travel for a regular layman person versus 200-300 years ago travel for a king who had a better time, who had a better ease of traveling. Nowadays, The person who's on food stamps, Section 8, and all the other government programs can get on an air conditioning bus for how much ever they charge now, or go on the train. Air conditioning without any bumps, get you from point A to point B fairly quickly, without sitting in a comfortable seat, have shocks. In olden days, a king wanted to travel to the next town. So he had a bunch of horses, very nice, and he had a wagon, right? The wagons did not have shocks, right? The wagons, if there was a bump in the road, the whole thing would tilt this way and that way. What was the king want? He had extra cushion maybe, right? So you're sitting there, a king many years ago would travel like that. Then you have someone here who rides a bus. Even a bicycle, they didn't have that in the olden days. Are we grateful for what we have? People are not grateful for anything that we have in our days. There's also something called hedonic adaptation. Hedonic adaptation is that it's an idea that no matter how good we are, or wherever we are, how happy we are for something to happen, we'll always return to baseline. Which means that they gave an example. A famous cited example is lottery winners. They stayed through with people that won the lottery, and the analysis that was done afterwards was that after 18 months, the lottery winners, their happiness returned to baseline. Which means is, let's say they won $50 million. After a year and after 18 months, they came back to where they were before. Not happy anymore. The same level as they were before. Baseline. No, not better, not worse. What is that? That's called hedonic. Here's an easier example. You come out from a hot day. It's a summer right now. You're going out a hot day. You're sweating, and you come into your house and you open up the air conditioning full blast. Right? You sit in front of the air conditioner. You're like, oh, you're drinking cold water, and you're sitting in front of the air conditioner for 2 minutes. It's heaven. Right? You're enjoying all the breeze. Then what happens? After 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, it's getting a little cold. It's not a little, and after you're sitting there for 10 minutes, now you're ready to become uncomfortable. 15 minutes, you can't already stand in front of it anymore without a blanket. Now what changed? The ear is the same ear that started off in the beginning and started off now. And the answer is you adapted. You adapted. You brought yourself down to the baseline. And once you brought yourself down to the baseline, that's it. You're changed. The idea is that people always, it's called hedonic adaptation. No matter how good something is, they always bring themselves down. Right? And they always go back to their baseline. And so there's a problem that people don't appreciate what they have. I'll give you this amazing story, a little short story. Then I want to tell you a nice story, a longer story. There was once a big rabbi, the name of Rabbi Victor Miller. Rabbi Victor Miller, he one day had a student that came into his home, and his wife said he's in the kitchen, so he goes into the kitchen and he sees the rabbi in the kitchen. He's an older rabbi, with a nice long gray beard, and the sink is filled with water, and his head is under the water, And so the student's looking at it. You don't question. You have a big rabbi. He does okay, whatever. Maybe he's like Kabbalistic. Intentions with the water. Who knows what he's doing? He goes under the water for like 30 seconds. He's like scared. He's like, Rabbi, is everything okay? And suddenly the rabbi picks his head up off out of the water and takes a deep breath in. So the student says, Rabbi, is everything okay? So the rabbi says, no, everything is fine. He says, would you mind explaining why your head is underwater? So he said, he was walking with his colleague, the rabbi said, and his companion complained about the air pollution in the city. They were walking down Ocean Parkway, a lot of cars, they were complaining about air pollution in the city. And then the rabbi, he said, listen, he says, I was concerned that his negativity would damper my appreciation for the great gift of ear. He says, how will I appreciate ear now? He told me that, so what I did was I put my head under the water, and then when I can't breathe, the first breath you take, you really appreciate air again. Then you appreciate how much time, how many people have a hard time breathing? They have asthma, COPD, emphysema, all these heavy smokers also, they have a hard time breathing. When was the last time that you appreciated being able to take a fresh breath of deep air, in Brooklyn, right? With all the pollution, right? It's still air, it's still amazing, we don't appreciate this. There's an amazing story that I heard many, many years ago, that there was once a prince. And this prince came of age. He was, that it was time for him to learn about, running a kingdom and things like that. The father. So he told his son, and he said, listen. He says he wanted to test him. Says he's been in the palace for a long time and wants to see how he does in business. Says here's $100,000. Take this $100,000 and go out and do business. If you go and you're able to, make money from it, right? You go and you come back with $200,000, $500,000, or whichever it is. Then I know you're good in business. You're gonna be able to, we have only little to work on. But if you come and you lose everything, then I know we have a lot to work on. So the prince says no problem. He takes a bag full of money. He says no problem, pops. He goes out to the market and he starts thinking about what's a good investment. He goes from place to place looking at what he's going to do, and then he sees a jewelry store in the distance. He says, jewelry is always a good investment. So he goes into this jewelry store and he sees he's looking around, nothing catches his eye. Then he sees like something in a glass, behind bars in the back, a huge diamond, and he tells the store owner, he's like, what's that? He said, looks amazing. I want that. So the jewelry store, salesman, be like, oh, this is there's a one-of-a-kind stone. No one ever seen it before. There's only one of them in the entire world. It's huge. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Everything is excellent. So he shows it to the prince. The prince starts looking at this. Is amazing. He says, how much is this stone? So the guy said, listen, you're the prince, you're the son. I'll give you a good deal, 100 grand. The prince says, awesome. That's exactly what I have in my pocket. He takes out his money, and the second he's about to pay the money, there's a little tap on his shoulder. And he turns around, and there's an old man there. And the old man, before he's making the transaction, the old man says, listen, he says, before you buy this, do you know anything about diamonds? Anything about the jewelry business? So he's like, to be honest, no, but look at it. It's a nice, big stone, clean. What is there to know? He says, listen, before you buy it, maybe it'd be a good idea to take it to a specialist to see if it's, what's its value. So the prince thought about it for a second. He says, you know what? That's a good point. He says, do you by any chance know anybody who's a specialist? So this old man says, I just happen to know somebody who's very knowledgeable on this. So the prince says, excellent, take me to him. The old man says, just one problem is he's sitting in prison. So the prince says, no problem, we'll go, and I'll be able to get in and out without a problem. So he goes into the king's prison, and he shows him this diamond. And this guy looks at this diamond from behind the bars, looks at it from the distance even. The guy says, don't buy it, he tells the prince. So the prince says, well, you didn't even touch it. What do you mean? How are you supposed to? He says, it's a fake diamond. So the prince looks at the old man. Come on, what do you think? This guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. While he's saying this, the guy reaches over and tips the diamond. The diamond falls on the floor and breaks into 1,000 pieces. So the prince is like, what are you, crazy now? I have to buy this. What am I supposed to do with all these tiny pieces? And the guy behind the cell says, obviously you don't understand. He says, a diamond wouldn't have broken if I would have put it on the floor. This is made out of glass. This is not a diamond. You're going to get gypped. He says, take this all. He picks it up for him and puts it back in his little bag. He says, bring it back to the person. It's a fake diamond. It's not a real diamond. So the prince is like, wow, what, you saved me. He says, I almost lost 100 grand. So he goes and he brings it back to the store owner. He brings it back to the store owner and he says, how dare you? How dare you sell me something that's almost fake? And the guy's like, stumbling over his words. The prince says he threw the bag in his face with all the things. He says, you're lucky. Here's your garbage. I'm not going to press any charges against you. And he leaves the store. So he leaves the store and now he's thinking, he's like, listen, I still got to make some money. What am I going to do now? So he's going through town and he sees, in the other end of town, is somebody selling racehorses. Right? Racehorses can make good money. So he says, you know what? Let's see if there's any good racehorses. He looks at all the racehorses. Some are better than others. Something, nothing special. And then you see this one magnificent beast, standing tall, muscles bulging out of every corner of its body. And he starts inspecting it, walking around, and he's, this is amazing. I've never seen such a strong horse before in my life. And he goes to, the owner of the seller. He's looking at, he sees, he's got a very well-to-do client. So he goes to him and says, oh, this horse is the best horse. You're never going to lose a race with this horse. So he says, it's amazing. He said, how much for this horse? So he says, for you, 100 grand, right? Says, Wado, siyata d'shmaya today. Everything God sent me 100 grand. He takes out his money from his thing. He's about to pay it. He gets another little tap from the back. He sees the old man again there. So the old man goes to him and says, listen, do you know anything about horses? So he says, what is there to know? This guy's strong. He can run. He can do everything. He's gonna win me some races. I'll make a lot of money. He says, listen, maybe take it to somebody who knows about horses just to make sure. So the prince thinks about it for a second and says, you know what, you were right last time. He says, all right. He says, you by any chance happen to know anybody that's, well-to-do and knowledgeable in the horse industry? So the old man says, I do. I just so happen to, but he happens to be in prison. And it happens to be the same person as in knowledge about diamonds. So he says, the guy is knowledgeable about diamonds and about horses. So the old man says, what can I do? He's a very smart man. So he says, fine, let's take it to him. They bring the horse to him. They let this guy out of the prison to inspect the horse. He walks around the horse. He says, wow, he's never seen such strong muscles. He's shaking his head. He's like, this is amazing. Then he goes to the front of the horse and he looks it in the eyes. And he looks at the eyes, he stares at it for about 3-4 seconds, and he says, don't buy this horse. And the prince is like, again with this guy. So what's wrong with this horse now? And this prisoner said, this horse is crazy. This horse is not going to be able to have a rider sit on him. If you put a rider on this horse, he's going to trample him, he's going to kill him. Come on, how? You saw that from his eyes? You're able to see a person, you're able to diagnose a horse from looking at his eyes? So the prisoner said, listen, you don't believe me? Take somebody who's on death row, who's supposed to die, put him on the horse, see what happens. So the prince liked the idea. He called somebody who was on death row, and he puts him on the horse. And he tells the person, start riding. The horse starts riding, and its speed was unmatched. It started, 50 yards, and back in now you have 0 to 60. So 0 to 50 in like 4 seconds, right? And he runs over there, and the second he hits like the 50 mark, the horse starts doing like the bulls that they try to starts throwing the person off, and the prince is looking like it's crazy. The second that the guy falls off the horse starts kicking the guy. A kick from a horse is the mouth. After he kicks him, the horse finds him and starts biting him, pulverizing his bones, until he rips the entire person apart. Limbs were everywhere. This horse was like a lion. So the guy's like, wow, this is crazy. This guy's a genius. How did he know that? So he goes back to this guy in the prison and he tells him, he says, listen, he says, tell me, you must be very smart. The prince tells this prisoner who saved him twice, he said, listen, you were right 2 times. I want you to tell me something that I don't know. So the prisoner said, listen, sir, I can't. My dear prince, I would love to, but I can't. And the prince kept on saying, no, I want you to tell me. Please tell me something I don't know. So the prisoner said, listen, if I tell you something you don't know, you're not going to be happy. I can't. So the prince said, you have a pass, a free pass. You're not going to be penalized for anything that you say. Tell me something I don't know. So the prisoner goes to him and he's to the prince and he says, listen, I'll tell you something, but you can't ask me any questions and you have to find it out yourself. So the prince says, fine. So he sits down. The prisoner looks at the prince and he says, you're adopted. And the prince starts laughing. He says, yeah, sure, I'm adopted. So what do you mean? Yeah, sure, I'm adopted. He's like, all right, great. All right, thank you very much. And he leaves. Right? He leaves, he starts walking looking for the next business deal, but then it started bothering him. He says, why did he say I'm adopted? He says, am I adopted? He says, what? And now it started bothering him. And what happens when something is in the person's mind, it builds up. He says, I can't. I got to go home. I got to figure out I got to put this foot down and, find out for sure if I'm adopted or not. He goes over, he comes back to the palace, and he goes straight to the mother, right? Not hello, how are you, how's everything? Straight up to her and says, hey, mom, was I adopted? She drops her tea that she was holding and she turns white. She's like, what do you mean? She couldn't even say a sentence out of her mouth. And she's like, just answer, was I adopted, yes or no? And she turns white as a ghost and she says, just ask your father. Suddenly this guy's heart starts beating. He's like, well, what's going on over here? How's this possible? What do you mean, I'm adopted? And she says, listen, you got to go speak to your father. He goes to the father. Again, no hellos, no nothing, straight up. He says, hey, Dad, am I adopted? Tell me yes or no. This is, flipping me out over here. I don't know what's going on over here. Am I adopted? So the father sits him down and he says, who told you that? How is it possible that anybody knows? He says, there are 3 people in the entire world that knew about this. Me, your mother, and a 3rd person. And that person died a few years ago. So there's nobody alive that is able to know that. How did you figure it out? And he tells himself, you really are adopted. He says, one time we were at war with another country, and we demolished that entire army. And we were going through the belongings, and we saw a little baby hanging over there, and both parents were killed. So, your mother and I, he says we couldn't have any children. So we decided to take you and raise you as our own. And that person that died, that was with us, that's no longer alive, we promised that he would never say anything. And I know he would never tell anybody. I says, there's no way that somebody is able to know about this. How do you find out? Who told you this? You have to show me this person. So he says, it happens to be this person in prison. This person in prison. So he says, bring him over here. I have to figure out how he figured it out. They bring in this prisoner, and they set the prisoner in front of the king. And the king tells him, he says, listen, he says, what you knew, I have no idea how you got this information. But I need you to tell me, and I grant you immunity, no problem. Tell me how it is that you figured it out. So he says, your honor, your majesty, he says, it's very simple. He says, your son, the prince, asked me for 2 different favors, right? 2 times he asked me for a favor, and 2 times I gave him the correct response and the correct advice. Not once did he ever say, you're right, you're awesome, what could I do for you? He never said, thank you, and he never had the gratitude of saying, you know what, you did something for me, what could I do for you? Right? Somebody who's of royal blood always has gratitude. He says he didn't have gratitude, I knew he was not of royal blood. Us as Jews, we're of royal blood. It is it's an obligation for everybody to be grateful to God. You have to be grateful to God. You have to be grateful to everybody, right? Someone does you a favor, be thankful, right? Say thank you. A person has 5 fingers on their hand. Every day should not go by without saying to God in your own words, thank you for 5 things. Thank you for the ear. Thank you for the car. Thank you for the air conditioning. Thank you for the water. Basic stuff. Say thank you. Say thank you. It's going to do so much for you. I'll give you an example. You have somebody who goes, you have 2 kids. One kid is always like, it starts off with, please dad, can I have this, can I have this, can I have this, can I have this? And then it changes to, I want this, 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 right? And it always constantly nagging. How come I don't have this? How come I don't have this yet? Spoiled kid. Then you have another kid, same family, same whatever, same situation, and he says, Dad, thanks so much for the present that you gave me last night. The lollipop was amazing. All saying grateful for every little thing that you say, always saying thank you. Which of those 2 kids do you want to give more? The one who always says thank you. The The one who always is grateful for what you want. Like, this is awesome. I'll give you an example also. The one time, there's certain people that you give charity to, right? They're collecting charity, they give charity to. So they look at it and be like, look inside your wallet. Maybe you could switch this for a 10, What really people want to do is want to slip that 5 or whatever you won that you get and put it back and say, have a good day, right? Really, it's not good. I always, if you gave the person money, that's it, it's done. You gave it to the person. You should never take anything back, right? But let's say you have the other end of the side. You have somebody that says, you give them $1, and they sit over there and they start blessing you from names of, God and angels and this. Like, God should give you panasa, God should give you a zivu, God should give you children. 5 minutes, you're getting blessings, and you're like, amen, 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 amen. At the end, after you walk away, you're like, wow, this guy's an amazing person. I wish I gave him $2 or $5 or $10. You always want to give somebody who's grateful, you want to do more to, right? You want God to give you more? Be grateful to God. Be great. Say thank you. Everybody comes to God with a list, shopping list. God, here's what I want, right? I need a new car, a new apartment, a new wife, I knew this, I knew that. Everybody has a list of all these new things. God forbid, everybody should know that their wife, there's a reason why they got married to them. So, but the idea is that everybody comes with a shopping list to God. When was the last time that you said, God, thank you for this, and thank you for that, right? You should go and say, be grateful. It's an obligation that a person has to be grateful. The more grateful you are, the happier that you will be. Okay, we have a few more minutes? We're going to have to do this in 2 different classes. Well, the idea, besides that, we'll do one more on how to become happy, and then we'll have to continue B'ezrat Hashem next week on part 2 on different steps on how to reach happiness. So now there is the more kindness that a person does, the happier that they will be. And they made a study. The study was this was also a study done by Positive Psychology by Martin Seligman, and the study was as follows. The study was they had three sections of people. They had a group of people. They split up to 3 sections. All of them were they were like depressed or sick or some sort of issues. One of them they just gave medications, no social interactions at all. The second group they gave medications and they gave social interactions, which means is that they went and they said, oh, how are you doing? How's everything? And they interacted. The third group they would help the people, which means is they had the medications, or I don't even know if the third group even got the medications, but they were the ones that helped other people who said, okay, listen, you're the one, let's say you're depressed, I want you to go to the hospital and give out all this free meals to whatever, to give something out, do act of kindness. And then afterwards they rated their level of happiness and success and health also. They realized that the level of success was 3, 2, and 1, which means is the person that did kindness to anybody else, their success was much greater than everybody else. The people that were socially interactive with other people, they were receiving end. They were happier than people that had no social interactions. Which means is that you want to be happier. The more you give, the happier you will be. That's why relationships, if you get into, you're married, right? The problem is that people get into marriage realizing all their, rights. I have a right to hot food. I have a right to, all this different things that you expect. The right to the house to be clean. That you should, that the wife will be all made up when you come home. Everything will be perfect. This is my rights, and I, in turn, am going to, provide. Right? People look at that way in marriage, not a successful marriage. Marriage should be looking at obligations, not about rights. You have an obligation. Forget about your right. Your obligation is to be a supportive husband, to support, to be financially, emotionally, and spiritually, everything supportive, right? You have your own obligations. If you look at your own obligations, you'll have a happier marriage, which means is all you care about is giving to the other person, right? What is the strongest love relationship known to man? Is it, siblings, best friends, mother to child, child to mother, father to child, parent to sibling? What is it? The most strongest love that you have is for a parent to their children. Why is that? Why is it a parent loves his child more than loves anything else? Right? A known fact. Anybody who's a parent here, I think, could vouch for that. Right? Am I right? Okay. So now, if you realize your kid, all you do is you give to the kid. You don't expect anything in return. At least not in the first, 20 and nowadays 50 years. But the problem is the most strongest love that you have is when you give, right? And the answer is you want to have a strong relationship with your wife, you want to have a strong relationship with whatever, a friend, you give. The more you give, the more act of chesed that you do, the more kindness that you'll do, the happier you will be. You're really giving him money, but you're making yourself happier, right? Which is very interesting that they have, the Super Bowl. If you ever wonder, the Super Bowl, I never understood this, but the average price for a ticket for the Super Bowl, you know how much it costs? The average price is $4,841, the average price. The lowest one is $3,300, right? And if you want a good seat, now I'm not talking about what is it called, a box suite, whatever it's called. A regular good seat, $25,000. $25,000 to sit in a cold, thing. So now there's also if you want to get the room, right? So basically you're a living room in the stadium with a bunch of. How much does that cost for the super? For the show, no problem. Thank you for coming. So how much does that cost? $350 grand. $350 grand for the what is it called? The box suite? Something like that. Whatever it is. $350 grand. Now, if you ask somebody, let's say the average price $4 grand, right? You're sitting there, $4 grand. You're not up the front, right? You're the back where you need binoculars and then 2-level binoculars to see something that's going on over there, right? And you ask a person, why do you do that? You fly out, you pay $1,000 for your plane ticket to get out to the place, to sit in the cold, in the snow, in the rain, to scream with a bunch of people that you don't know. If you want to go to the bathroom, you need a hazmat suit because everything there is, people there, while they're walking there, beer, everything smells like beer. Everything is disgusting. You're sitting there cramped. For $4,000, you can buy the most advanced television. Well, I don't know how much it is, right? You get the curved flat, whatever it is, 4K, 20, whatever it is they're up to now, right? Screen, and you can sit at your home, 100-inch, right? And you can enjoy yourself much more. You can eat what you want. You can drink the beer that you like, and you can, go to the bathroom without having to, worry about getting contaminated, and getting sick and diseased. Why do people do it? Why do people do it? And it gets booked. It's booked. It's solid booked. Now, why is it? And the answer is because people want to be a part of something. You want to be a part of something, right? That's what a relationship is. A relationship is you want to be a part of something. That's why if you ever realize that you have not chas v'shalom anybody here, but non-Jews, they go to a non-Jewish concert, right? If they take off, let's say the person that's singing, whatever it is, if they take off, any clothes and they throw it to, right? So if it's a woman who's performing the concert, she does not really have any clothes left to take off. But if let's say there's a guy, right, he has a T-shirt, right? He's a guitarist or whatever, the lead singer. He takes off a T-shirt and he throws it to the crowd. Everyone goes crazy, grabbing all that sweat, right? And they take this, they cherish this, and they give this to their children and be like, I was in your concert 100 years ago, and this game, this. But imagine you're in the gym. Somebody's sweating over there, takes off his shirt and throws it in your face, right? You want to sue it before you punch him, and you want to sue that person. What are you doing throwing your sweaty thing over here? Why is it that people go crazy because they want to be a part of something? I'm a fan. My team, this is my favorite show, my team, all this, you're a part of something. Why do you want to be a part of something? Because you want to give. The secret is you always want to be able to give. You always want to be give. You scream. Why do you scream with everybody? Because you're giving to the team. As if your team is going to win because you're wearing your lucky socks, right? Or your underwear that you never change, right? People always want to be a part of something. You want to be a part of something? The secret is to give. To give, you will be happier. Give tzedakah. Give, the best tzedakah that you can give is help someone spiritually. Send them a lecture to learn Torah. Send them something to do. The happiness and the reward is endless. We will, B'ezrat Hashem, continue next week. We'll do a few more because it's getting late. Any questions?
Nope.